Hello, what is up? I am finally back with another interview video. So in this video, I am talking to Szymon Licau. Oh, I really hope I said his Polish name correctly. Anyways, Szymon works at Monterail, where he is a principal engineer. And at Monterail, for the last 4 years, they have made the State of Vue report. So they investigate the community, they figure out where Vue is, and they give you a report on the state of the technology. And so they reached out to me. It's like, hey, Tim, do you want to interview Simon, who knows a lot about Vue? He actually worked on the report, and it just could just be a great conversation. And so, yes, it was. So without further ado, here is Simon from Montreal, and let's rock. Hello, Simon. How are you? Welcome to this interview.
Hello, I'm great, Tim. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So I just did an intro and I probably spelled your name or pronounced your name quite wrong. So would you mind actually for the audience pronouncing it the right way?
Okay, and no worries about it because I know that Polish language is not that easy on pronunciation for foreigners. So yeah, so actually even my last name is giving people trouble here in Poland because it's not usual. So yeah, to pronounce it correctly, I'm Szymon Licau. I know, whooshy sounds scary, but that's Polish language for you.
It actually sounds pretty cool. And so now that we know your cool name, can you say a little bit about where you work and what you do and why this interview anyways?
Okay, so I'm working remotely for Monterail, which is a company that is an official Vue partner and also happens to be an author of the State of Vue report. And as for myself, I'm a principal engineer of the frontend team at Monterail, which probably the title doesn't explain much, but to put it shortly, it's a leadership position where I'm ensuring that our frontend team grows, learns, and shares the knowledge and basically delivers the work, and they are simply happy doing it.
Awesome. So at Montreal, you're basically kind of an agency building cool websites next to doing the research and making the Vue report then.
Yeah, pretty much. We are a software agency. We are not only just doing Vue. We also have people who do React, Angular, and we also have multiple backend technologies. So, yep.
Cool. So quite full stack. I like that.
Yeah.
So I went through this whole report and it's really cool. It looks great. It reads well. Just one thing. And this is a bit of a cheeky question, but I'm going to ask it anyways, because generally when you look at the state of something, there's community in there, right? So
Yep.
if you look at the state of JS or the state of CSS, there's always like these huge questionnaires with a lot of community. And I kind of didn't see that in this report. So that's actually it's fine because you are in the community, right? And so what do you think of the state of Vue?
So, if you would ask me today, I would say that the state of Vue is nice. It's good. It's fresh, sort of like out of the oven, fresh state. Because we have a lot of new cool things. The Vue itself is quite cool. It's been a long time since I've been this excited about Vue and all the new things that happened. But the key is, if you would ask me today, this is how I'd answer. And because of all the rewrite and all the hard work and all the different things that happened last year, we are kind of still dealing with the consequences and the costs of what happened even today. And if you would ask me this...
Sorry, go on. I'm just excited about the next part, but continue.
So if you would ask me this, let's say, beginning of last year, where we didn't even have a single project at Montreal with Vue 3 yet, and so on, it would be like, yeah, I'm digging this, but I have some worries. I have some, mixed feelings. There's some anxiety. Some developers are worried. And then we also had so many new things, which probably didn't help. I'm guessing many developers might have feel left behind or feeling like they have to catch up because they are stuck in a huge Vue 2 project, no chance to switch from it, and they are like, oh gosh, so many things happened. What now? Am I so far behind? So much things happened on paper. So yeah.
Yeah, you're actually pointing to a question I had a bit later, but we can actually talk about that now that you brought it up, because there's so much new tooling now in Vue 3. There's all these new ways of everything, how it's built. And now
Yeah.
you even have Next 3 coming up with all new things as well.
Yep.
And so libraries now have to support both Vue 2 and 3. Of course,
Yep.
later only 3, which is easier, but some haven't started yet or some are in the middle. And then Next came out, and then half the modules don't work. And so I feel like sometimes our community is a bit in limbo. We're all still really positive, but it's kind of this vibe of where am I? What should I do? Can we now go here or is it not stable enough? And
Yeah.
so, how has this impacted your projects?
So I can imagine this being a very real feeling people have because, like I said, I'm saying this as a person who had all the time in the world to catch up, to learn these tools, to get them closely. And I'm like, yeah, this is cool. But if you are a person who just does a full-time job and doesn't have the time to catch up, it sounds scary because you had Vuex, now you have Pinia, you had Webpack, which you built your application. Now there is this Vite, now there is this V-test. Your development tools changed from Vita to Volar. There's just so much, right? And I can really imagine that it sounds scary. It definitely impacted our projects, especially considering new things we built. Because we had to consider, okay, is it time for Vue 3 or maybe it's not? Maybe it's too risky. At the beginning of the year, we had a project where we just decided, let's stick with Vue 2. That's safe. We are not sure how dangerous it could be, dependencies and all, and that's okay. But later half in the year, for example, we jumped in, we've got into Vue 3, Vite, and built a nice hybrid application, which should be releasing soon on mobile devices, which is cool. And
Oh,
right now,
nice.
we are kind of like Vue 3 all the way as a default for new projects. We even have a project where we decided to use Next 3, knowing that it might
Whoa, I
not
love
be
it.
so safe. But we had some small issues, some small bugs with auto importing recently, for example. But overall, it's nice, and I think that it's a good choice to be on top of it because, like I said, for example, I'm not until recently, and I think there might still be, for example, Vue developers at Monterail who didn't even use Vue 3 in production yet. So, we have to start somewhere. And if we build other developers who are experienced with it, we also can share this knowledge with others. So, yeah,
Yeah.
it definitely was quite dynamic and, a lot of challenging decisions and lots of
But
decision making.
I actually wonder if this could have been helped better. Likely not, because when you look at the report, Evan Yu is actually talking about, hey, are we going to go big bang or incremental change? And he actually pointed out that lots of the modules and libraries that existed use like internal Vue 2 stuff,
Yep.
and they really wanted to get away from that. And what he just said is like, we're just going to go big bang and we're going to work on this for a while and then it's going to come out and then we'll see what happens, and
Yep.
that's kind of what happened. And so when you look at that, building a library like that or a framework, if you compare it to, let's say, projects where companies want a new website and you're working on these, right? What is your opinion? Are you one of those big bang people or iterative safe changes?
So, in my day-to-day job, I'm very much accustomed to incremental releases and changes. And I think that's the normal way of software agency because we know we need to mitigate risks. We need to get the feedback from the client early. We need to validate our choices. And it's fine. And we are also completely in control what kind of the version of the software the client or the users use. In terms of library, it's not so easy, right? Because if you do incremental slow changes, each of those versions someone might be using. And it's also much harder to deviate from something that's like at the core of it. So changing something so deeply entangled and used broadly everywhere is hard. And I can understand such a big group right approach being reasonable in such situations, and I don't imagine it being easy to do like incrementally, and perhaps even the effort to manage and plan such an incremental approach would be much more costly than just a big bang, right?
Yeah. And like when you do your projects, like I've been at where you are in previous jobs, where doing a big bang would maybe take like a year. And even though it's just one project, that was still too hard to do because you don't see changes during that time of this one year and you have to support both systems.
Yep.
Anyways, the funny thing is, we now came out with Vue 3, and there's now everything on Vite and all the
Yep.
cool new tools with Nuxt 3. And now looking at the market or the space where we work, things are changing a little bit, right?
True.
We're seeing, of course, they're always changing, but it's kind of funny how first we had all, single page apps. Then we went all in on Jamstack. Then we had a bit of a mix. And now everybody wants to do more on the edge and go back to a bit of SSR again, which kind of makes sense, right? Because you want less
Yep.
hydration on the front end and you maybe want to do some dynamic stuff on the edge close to the user, SSR it even, and then hydrate a little bit. It's kind of a whole different approach again. And so when you read in the report, they're actually saying that SSR in Vue 3 is good, but it's not really finished yet. It's not super optimized, and there's a lot to be gained. So think about this, right? In a year, when you now have to build a new e-commerce website with all the bells and whistles at proper scale with Vue and Nuxt, let's say, how would that look, do you think, based on what you know now and based on where the market is going and the tools that you have?
So that's a lot of questions in one kind of. But like, if I would have to choose myself, because I'm a Vue developer, I would probably stick with Nuxt 3 and Vue 3. And I feel like it's a safe bet, considering that the big rewrites that we had are very promising in terms of how we are prepared for the future. And the direction actually the front end takes right now is very interesting to me. And it's like so exciting to see, because I'm always like a decade into web development. And I've been starting with full stack development, jQuery and all. Let's just, forget about this.
Oh, we're
But
dating ourselves. I was so happy when jQuery came out because it stabilized how we did dumb stuff.
yeah,
Oh
that's
man.
true. But, we had this idea that there was just web development, right? There was just full stack. And then we started to divide. The front end started to grow and grow and grow and get more complicated. We did a lot of things in a hacky way because there was no APIs yet for it. We had hash-based routing and so on. There's just so much. But then the reality hit us. We've been throwing megabytes of JavaScript and bundled content to the users, and that's not okay, obviously. In terms of like e-commerce, that's absolutely not okay. That's not how you should do it. So we started to experiment with some server-side generation, server-side rendering. We started like to, come a full circle and come back and be like, maybe like the old paradigms are fine in some way, and we should probably stick to them and for a good reason. And it's very exciting, how current frameworks approach it, and even how new frameworks get created to solve this, like Quick, which is gaining so much attention for
Yeah.
good reasons, how crazy different it is, and how it tries to solve the problems. And even from the backend perspective, there is the Rails team with their Hotwire, Turbo, and Stimulus approach, which is like even different paradigms to solve these issues. They basically throw everything upside down, and everything now is back again on the backend, and all is
Yep.
just plain old HTML everywhere. But it works, and it's very interesting. So to me, I feel like this is basically the area to watch out for in the coming months and years, and I'm quite excited for it. But right now, with Nuxt 3 being out as a release candidate still, but stabilizing, and Vue 3 out, I think that hand in hand together, they probably will do some crazy stuff. I've already seen what Nuxt 3 is doing with Nitro. We even had Daniel Rowe at a meetup at Monterail back a few months ago, and he gave us a presentation, and you couldn't not be hyped about Nuxt 3 and what it's going to do.
I actually just did a presentation as well where I used Nuxt 3's Nitro engine on the edge runtimes of different edge providers. And so on Cloudflare, it just works really easily. And then I went to
Nice.
Netlify, and then I had to run it in Dino, and that also worked. And so you can see that the team at Nuxt has worked so hard on Nitro, and they saw that this was going to happen like 2 years ago, which I think that's great. And so now when you look, you have like systems like Astro or Svelte Kit or Remix. They're all kind of playing in that playground.
Yep.
And so while we wait for the rest to become stable in the Vue world, have you actually tried these, or are you such a fanboy like me that we just wait?
So personally, I'm fine with waiting actually. But for example, at Monterail, we do have projects with, for example, which used Next.js. And I heard personally some opinions, for example, like Next introduced some new things or caught up with some things that were not there yet. So it's really nice that we have a bit of a broader view as a software agency that, doesn't just do Vue development, but also others. So, it's good to take a good look at all the frameworks and how they are doing, how good things they are doing. Maybe there are some bad things they are doing. But honestly, I'm for now sticking with Vue and just my bet is on them. Vue and Next are probably going to do some extremely cool stuff. And I'm very positive on that.
Yeah, actually, I agree. For work, I've had to dip my toe in Next.js and Vercel and stuff, and it actually works very well. It's super stable. So I'm kind of excited to see the differences when Next comes in with the new Vue stuff, and I think it's going to be a great time for developers. It's all going to be super awesome.
Yeah.
Dude, thank you very much for this interview. I loved it. It was nice to meet you for the first time, actually.
Yeah.
So thanks, and hopefully speak to you soon. Cheers.
Yeah. Thanks, Tim. Likewise.